Podfluxxx, take 24. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Podfluxxx, episode 25. Ricky Reyes, the wrestling gods have shown down on us tonight because we've got a lot of ground to cover, which is good news for us, terrible news for about 20 plus people. But, that's got really nothing to do with us, but we'll get there in a little bit. What I want to start with, Ricky, was last week's AEW Dynamite Grand Slam in the Arthur Ashe Stadium. So in about the last week before the show, they hit the local TVs and all the local publicity and whatnot, and they actually ended up with having about 11,000 plus in the stadium.
Yep.
Which was down from the year before and also down from the year before that. However, they did a TV rating of, I just had it here, give me 1 second. They did a television rating of about 984,000 for Dynamite. Did you watch any of this Dynamite on Wednesday?
No. I kept up with it, and I saw that I think MJF and a couple other people were doing like a lot of radio and media, like a media tour, I guess, the week prior, like leading up to it. Again, like wrestling is, a TV business really now. So, the higher rating obviously is, kind of what they're looking for, I'm sure.
That might be their highest rating of the year.
Yeah, and it stayed pretty consistent, right? Like that was.
I didn't see the quarter-hour breakdowns.
Yeah, I heard that it stayed. It didn't drop drastically, but it didn't spike either. So there wasn't. It seemed like it was a pretty steady flow. Like they kept their audience, in other words. So that's good. Yeah, again, that's AEW's. They don't know how to fix this issue of slowly declining fans at live events, and I believe that has everything to do with not having important storylines with important people. So,
I will say normally, right out of the gate on something like this, Tony Khan is quick to be like, and we'll be back here next year for, like they announce this shit right away.
Yeah.
There has been no mention. It's been absolute radio silence on whether they're coming back for Arthur Ashe next year, which I think at this point is a super smart move. Take some time, evaluate what you're doing, and maybe you don't have to do this every year and operate at a loss, because you put 20 something thousand in there the first year, 13,000 the second year, 11,000 the third year. You're operating at I don't care how much money you make at the gate, you're clearly operating at a loss.
Yeah, and it's well documented, like running MSG for WWE, even when they get 19,000 in there, supposedly, they're like breaking even at best.
Yeah.
So there's no point for them to have this as a yearly event. If anything, you would want maybe every 3 years, you would want to revisit Arthur Ashe on a pay-per-view when you're gonna, load it up and make it worth where you're gonna make your money back on some pay-per-views, right? Because they did this on live TV. So what did they really make on top of it? Nothing. They lost money to to kind of like show how big your dick was that week, and you
Right.
ran a huge building that was tarped off in the middle. Like I saw a bunch of like, AEW nerds saying, well, it's full here. Yeah, bitch. And then look past the big curtain that's in the middle of the building.
Right.
There's another 10,000 seats that
Right.
guys are putting their bags and water jugs on
And
for the
take a
locker
look.
room. So
Take a look to see how many of those people got in because their buddy bought a cheeseburger, or because
right.
their buddy bought one ticket and theirs was free.
And theirs was free. Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like if they would have got like a few 100,000 pay-per-view buys on that event, now you can make your money back, right? I
Right.
mean, if you're just running, I mean, I know WWE does that was December 26th is Madison Square Garden every year, right?
Usually the 26th or the 27th. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's right after Christmas. So guess what you get for Christmas? Tickets to
WrestleMania wrestling ticket.
yeah, tickets to the Garden, right? Everyone's in town for Christmas. It makes a lot of sense to do something like that, the same way they did the Chicago All Out. Isn't that like Labor Day or whatever day weekend? So it makes sense, to do that type of stuff. But just to run TV it's just silly. It's just stupid. And I'm sure they're looking at it like that. Somebody has to be telling Tony Khan, like, hey, put the rolled up dollar bill down. There's some numbers you got to look at here. This is not only declining, but now this is coming out of pocket, for us to continue to run a live TV event. When you could have put that 11,000 people in a smaller venue, right? And the energy level would have been way higher. The guys and girls. I mean, what does Nassau Coliseum hold?
These days,
Yeah, they
probably
redid it, right?
probably after, because they renovated it a few years
Yeah,
ago. It's not
right.
really open
Oh,
very much. Like, they use it very selectively. I would
yeah,
say after you put a stage,
yeah.
your production setup, maybe 8,500.
Wow, really?
1,000 maybe. They
Wow.
renovated it down smaller, and that's why the Islanders couldn't play there anymore. They
Right.
made it
Oh,
smaller than the NHL league standards.
what did they ever say why or?
Because they're stupid. They were going to make it part of this whole big deal they were putting over there and use it like convention center, a casino, and all this
Uh,
other. They were going to
okay,
build up that whole piece of property,
that whole area. Yeah.
and then they did nothing except for renovate the outside and a little bit inside. And so they took
Okay.
out the box seating
Yeah.
and expanded the outer concourse for better foot travel. I don't know. The thing, it's stupid. It's
Yeah.
perfect for wrestling. I
I
went
was
there
just.
for a SmackDown or a Raw within the last few years or whatever, and there's no place in that building
Yeah.
where you don't have a fantastic view of the ring.
Right. And that's kind of what I was getting at, was like a smaller building having, now everyone's paid if it's that small,
Right.
right? I mean, it I don't know. The more we try to figure out what this idiot's doing, uh, I feel it's a lot of ego pushing him to do this stuff, because he seems to be a smart businessman, but I feel like it's the young fucks and twinkle toes pushing, like, no, we got to run these buildings ego wise, like they're trying to book these houses that are big like WWE does. And even WWE, I've noticed as of late, like, that they're not scaling down, but at least they're filling up the 9 to 11,000 seats building that they are running now. They seem to be pretty full for everything, house shows included. So that's good.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. They lost a little bit more than money last Wednesday. Did you see the finish on the John Moxley Ray Phoenix match?
I did, obviously. Yes.
Now, I can't put my finger on it, but I seem to recall somebody years ago. Who was it? Telling me that these Lucha guys, right? The Phoenix and the Pentagon, that they were just spot monkeys, right?
Yeah,
All they cared about was how their stuff looked,
that's
and then
it.
the rest of it doesn't matter.
Right.
Is this a byproduct of that?
Yeah, it is. Having to deal with that type of worker is always a headache in the back, you know.
Oh, good
Um,
pun. I like that one.
yeah, right. Uh, I will say this about Moxley, like whether people like him as a wrestler or not, there's seems to be you either do or you do not. Uh, the thing about Moxley that people need to understand is like he shows up, you know, and he seems to be the guy, and I can relate to be the guy that will go out and do what needs to be done, whether he likes it or not. You know, there always has to be someone that needs to lose, right? So I could see him thinking, okay, let's do it. You know, with the move being described and everything, and probably thinking he could have protected himself. Um, Again, Phoenix, when it comes down to he can do the lucha spots really well, obviously better than most, right? The problem is then they start getting these ideas of these drivers and everything else, and they don't
Now,
understand
to be clear, apparently he hurt Moxley on the dive.
on the dive, right?
The original injury was on the dive,
Right.
but then he dropped him on his head twice.
Right. That's what I'm saying is like you you're gonna get hurt with these guys with like shins and knees and
Yeah,
elbows twisting and flaring into the wind, right? And they're coming in blind. So now it's your job, you know, to basically just accept the fact that like I'm gonna eat something, but I need to
right.
stop this guy from killing himself, you know.
Okay.
And in return, you know, you're gonna end up getting clipped with something. And obviously, yeah, he was injured. The thing about the driver that he did was what you do not do on a tombstone or anything like that is he bent at his hips, so his shoulders came forward, and that's how Moxley's head was stuffed into the
Right.
mat, right? So if his chest would have been out, and as he goes to drop Moxley, he looks up, and his shoulder and his spine is up, you know, and
Straight.
straight, he, you know, he would have had a little bit of less impact, obviously, you know. But what he did everything wrong in the sense like he did it where his legs were open towards the hard cam, right? So he's exposing the fact that if his head didn't hit, we would see it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, you do it maybe diagonally, and you bring your knees up higher, keep your chest out, and his head doesn't have to hit, right?
Right.
And then you get that bounce effect, and he basically just, you know, can, if anything, barely touch the mat, but you should never, you know, do that. But like in a tombstone, you never bend at the hips and drop your shoulders. You keep your
Right.
chest out. If you've seen Dynamite Kid do a tombstone, like that's how I was doing mine when I would do them, was I would never bend at my hips, like I'd never squat down. I would stay up, and
Get big.
once my knees hit, I pulled the guy up, you know, so I
Right.
knew that even if he slid, I had him, like I wasn't going. I mean, yeah, so like of course that happens. Moxley doesn't know up from down, probably right even before this all happened. Now he's really fucked. You know, they all look like a bunch of assholes because, and then Rick Knox, what was he not counting? You know, he's a whole nother can of. I love Rick. I know Rick personally. You know, I've known him for years. He's a nice guy, and he doesn't mean to. He's not doing anything out there with bad intentions. I just don't think he's thinking about the wrestlers as much as he needs to be thinking about the wrestlers, you know. I think he thinks, we're moving along. We're moving along. I got to worry about time, this, that, and everything else. When if I've even done a practice match as a referee, all I'm looking at is the wrestler's eyeballs to make sure that they're either focused in, and they're not kind of like, oh, what's that pretty star,
Yeah.
So he just needs to focus more on that, the safety of the wrestlers. But yeah, it was a bad night for Moxley, and I bet if he could work next week, he'll probably lace him up and be right back out there.
What I don't understand on the Rick Knox thing, right?
Mm.
So obviously, you're always told from the minute you walk through the door, day one of wrestling school, referees are going to count everything like it's a sheet. 1, 2, 3. Okay, great. But we all know that that's not a thing. Right. I don't know if you remember or if you were at the FWE show where me and Kev hit our finish on Cooley, and Old School was the referee, and he goes 1, 2, and then he holds up, but it was finish, and then he just looks out at the crowd and goes, "That was 3." And we were like, dude, we picked him up and hit him with something else, and then Kevin kicked him in the nuts and DDT'd him, and then I rubbed my shoes over the top of his whatever. But like, when it happens, okay, it happens. He pulled up on the 2.
Yeah.
Moxley didn't move a muscle, didn't move an inch, and then it doesn't occur to him to not let Phoenix start to pick this guy up, right? Because this guy's out. Now, you don't know if he's just out.
Right.
If his fucking neck is broken.
Exactly.
Right? And another thing they teach you, when you walk through the door, somebody gets dropped on their head and they're not moving, you don't move that motherfucker.
Right.
Yeah. So there was a lot of things there that were just red flags from Phoenix and from Rick Knox. But Rick Knox is the guy who's mic'd up to the people in the back and the people at ringside. And he needed to make a better... Not everybody's great at making a real life split second decision.
Okay, so with that being said, right? So there's a lot there, and I'm gonna put most of the blame on Knox, because on the dive, you need to go check on both guys.
Yep.
Your priority needs to be, can you even get in this fucking ring to keep going? So through that, he should have communicated with Knox there. And if Moxley says, I'm hurt, he needs to just say, start to go home now.
Yeah.
Well, period. It doesn't, again, like, it's show business, but we got to do our shit live and in one take,
Mm-hmm.
So,
and make sure nobody gets killed.
Correct.
Most importantly.
So, I mean, what if Moxley thought he was okay, picked Phoenix up and dropped him on his head?
Right.
Then it would have been Moxley's fault.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when the guys go to the floor, the referee needs to hit the floor, telling them in the fans' eyes, you got till 10 to get in this ring, but you want them to squeeze your ankle, squeeze your hand, whatever, let them know that they're okay.
Yeah.
And then hop back in the ring. What should have happened was, hey, I got hurt. Moxley or Rick Knox, with no argument, just say, go home now. Pull him back in the ring, whatever, blah, 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 finish, go get checked. That's it. It's as simple as that. So that when they didn't, I'm sure Moxley's probably thinking, like all of us do, oh, I think I'm okay.
Yep.
We've all been there, and we think we're okay. The problem is we weren't okay when the night started. So someone needs to save us from us, right. And that's the referee's job. And it's not going to be a popular decision when you get to the back. This is what I'm saying about AEW. It is all friends. They let each other do whatever each other wants to do. And you got to save somebody has to be saving the guys from themselves from time to time. And
Well,
this
I
is
was
one
going
of
to say,
those,
to what end?
yeah, this is one of those scenarios where, yes, you probably could have kept going, but not on my watch. Like, it has to be that way, And once Moxley cooled down, I'm sure he would have been like, "Hey man, thanks. He's got a fucking kid, he's got a family to take care of. We got a show next week, and then the next week, and it's like you have to be saved from yourself. I have never been like, seriously hurt in the ring to that extent, except for like when Angelico drop kicked me off the ladder when my shoulder was out. I told Marty, who ran up to me immediately. Like, all I remember is sitting up thinking, fuck, there's a hole in my shoulder. And I looked over and Marty's grabbing my hand and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, my shoulder's out." And he goes, "Get the fuck out of the ring and get to the back." Like, he didn't ask me, "Do you have more?" He didn't ask me. It was, it was,
How
"Get out."
out is it?
Yeah. Yeah. So like, so that's kind of what I did. And Rick Knox was there too, on those Lucha Undergrounds. Maybe because we were taped, he was more in tuned to checking on everybody.
Right.
And we weren't live.
Well, also,
I don't know.
Marty Elias, right,
Yeah.
is how many years a WWE
Yeah.
referee? So he came from a corporate culture
right.
of, where I'm sure the
Protecting
precautions
Taker and Sean and
yes,
Stone Cold. Right.
yes,
But it doesn't matter, like a referee on an indie show needs to at least, how many times did you guys maybe hear me tell the ref, "Hey, stay with me. Hey, stay with me," throughout matches, because I would tell the refs if they were that stupid beforehand, "Hey, I'm going to talk to you and you're going to tell him what I'm telling him." Unfortunately, not everybody's that detailed when it comes to a match, right? And then
I can tell you now from I have an experience now on the other side of it, right? Because I am with a walkie-talkie and an IFB in contact with referees constantly throughout the entire course of a night.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that there are some referees where you tell them, I'll tell them, you got 3 minutes, get them moving, get them going home, get these guys running, tell them to do this, tell them to do that. And either they're intimidated to communicate it.
Correct. Yes, I know.
Or the people they're telling just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've learned better. I'm not going to tell, Eric or Vinny, "Hey, you guys got 2 minutes left."
Right.
Because that's, like talking to a wall.
They're going to go 20 more just despite what you said.
Just because I was like, "Hey, bring it home."
Right.
But there are other people there are people out there who can't just get to their finish.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Or there are referees out there who are gonna be intimidated by it, and they're either gonna be like, "It's time to go,"
excuse
or
me,
they're just not gonna say anything.
Right. Well, to fix that all needs to be addressed prior to the event. If you have to go out there and say, "Look, I've had some issues with time here. If the referee is telling you a certain time, it's because I'm telling you there's a certain time, and it's not him." And then when and where you can and can't, like you said,
apply it. You're right.
Apply that. Again, it all comes down to, after the dive, at least Moxley should have said, "Hey, I'm rocked. I'm a little hurt." Something, if that were the case. Obviously, the two pile drivers did not help. His brain owie. So when
his brain bleed.
Yeah. So when you get clipped on a dive from a guy that does the shit that Phoenix does, it may take you a few minutes. Sometimes you don't have a few minutes on live TV. That's why I'm saying he probably should have said, "Hey, I'm a little rocked," and Rick should have just said, "Go home now." Better to go home early than it is to go home late, or even get to where they got to, which
Right.
was this poor guy's brain being smashed 2 more times, a complete fuck up the entire world was laughing at you with, an impromptu title change that didn't need to happen or shouldn't have happened. All this kind of fucked up business wise, business exposing, business wise, everything, man. Like you see when it
On a
goes
giant stage.
that's what I'm saying. Like I was just gonna say, it goes 1, 2, and then the pause. You see the entire front row jump up because they know this is wrong right now, and they wanted to see. So I mean, it's like it was just bad all the way around.
Now, let me ask you a question. How much English does Phoenix speak?
He knows enough he knows wrestling talk. Like he
Right.
can speak. Even in Lucha Underground, by the 4th season, he was in America and around our dumbasses enough to speak.
To speak wrestling?
Yes, to speak wrestling. He could bullshit with you. He was fine. It wasn't. I don't. With the exception of doing the move incorrectly, I don't necessarily blame him as much as I blame Rick, because this is a take charge situation that needed to happen minutes before the driver even happened, and I mean, 1, 2, it should have just been 1, 2, 3. The thing again, this goes back to what I was saying. Like, no one wants to be mean, no one wants to take charge, no one wants to be the bad guy, bad cop, whatever you want to call it.
Especially there. I don't think anybody
That's what
wants to be the guy
I'm saying.
who isn't letting the you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah, everyone's got to be friends, and then we all got to rub each other's butts after and say we all did a super job, and that was fun wrestling in front of a half-empty building. No, it's not. Like, someone has to step up and say shit needs to get fixed, and the safety of the wrestlers. I mean, like, how many botches have we seen through AEW that are unnecessary botches? You know what I'm saying? Like, these are things that didn't, shouldn't, and in WWE don't really happen. Yes,
right.
there's botches. Everyone gets hurt. That's not what I'm saying. But you know what I'm saying when I'm explaining that these are unnecessary. It's because someone was like, "Oh yeah, let's do this, and then let's do this." For what?
Right.
Just for the sake of doing it, and then they get hurt.
Well, let's move on just a little bit here to our last piece of AEW stuff before we really get moving. Where are you at on this WrestleDream pay-per-view? Do you know the card?
I do not know the card. I know the match that everyone wants to see. Zach and Brian finally is happening, I guess, on TV.
Right.
Is it FTR and Aussie Open?
Yeah. Well, want me to go through the card for you?
Yeah.
Because there appears to be they've got a full card booked.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen this.
Allegedly. All right, so we got Chris Statlander and Julia Hart for the AEW TBS championship, which I feel like Julia Hart is kind of still really, really green, but I think Kristen will, guide a decent match there. And then we're getting Shibata versus Kingston for the ROH World Title and the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship.
Okay.
Okay. The newly crowned AEW TNT champion Christian Cage versus Darby Allin. All right. And then we're getting the Bucks versus the Guns versus the Lucha Brothers versus Orange Cassidy and Hook.
No.
We're getting Jericho and the Golden Lovers, I guess, Omega and Coda versus Takeshita, Sammy Guevara, and Will Ospreay.
Okay, that could be good.
Yep. And then we got Better Than You, Baby. That's Adam Cole and MJF for the ROH World Tag Team titles versus the Righteous. Are you familiar with the Righteous?
No, I've never even heard that name.
It's Vincent ROH. Do you know who Vincent Mars?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, and Dutch Bill Carr. Remember, he used to do the tag team with Dan Barry, where they were cops.
I remember Dan Barry being a cop, but I don't
Yeah, and
remember
then
two of
his
them.
partner, he's a big dude. Big dude
Oh,
can
okay,
work.
cool.
So that should be all right. And
All
then
right.
we got FTR versus Aussie Open, and now I was listening to a podcast the other day where they called Mark Davis from Aussie Open the illegitimate 45-year-old love child of Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, and now I can't unsee it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
could see that. Yeah,
And then you got Hangman versus Swerve Strickland,
that'll be good.
and then Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah. Yeah. There's three,
Three
maybe
matches
four.
on here that I would sit through.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's probably like three, maybe four. That six man will probably be pretty hot. With Jericho and them.
Yeah.
Um,
But the
Aussie
rest of it
Open.
is Rampanite.
What?
The rest of it is Rampanite.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
The Aussie Open and FTR probably be the best match. Did you ever see any of? Did you see their match from London last year?
yes, I did see
Yeah,
that.
it was. Yeah, they'll do something like that. It'll be phenomenal. But I mean, obviously, the money match is the Brian and Zach in the main. But
I just wish
uh,
they would have done something, you know?
it's again, they're banking on it being Washington State, and that's where Brian's from.
Right.
Again, it's just matches, matches with. I mean, what is it, like a couple weeks away, right? So
It's the I believe it's the first.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Next
that's what I'm saying.
weekend
That's what
after.
I'm saying. Yeah, they keep doing this whole like, oh, dream match type of thing. It's I mean, for every event, not just this one, but it'll be a good show, I think. Brian obviously will be the most over because of the state that it's in.
Right.
And I'm assuming that's why they're banking on him selling it out. Uh, yeah, I mean, other than that, it's frustrating to me because a card like this sounds great, and there is quite a few matches and matchups that you would look forward to, right? But every week there's a dream match, right? or
Mm-hmm.
or some kind of, like, didn't they just do Andrade versus Jay White like on free TV Saturday night?
You
I
know,
mean,
I didn't watch.
yeah, that was Collision.
Yeah, Rampanite.
Yeah,
I don't think I'm watching it anymore.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like Andrade versus Jay White, and you just gave it to us with a few week, not even 2 week build. It was just like, oh, here's your match for Collision, and I was like, holy shit, what a great match that's going to be. And then I thought, in a few days,
Right.
like I'm not gonna watch it. Like
With
I'll watch
nothing
the
behind it.
clips. Yeah, I'll watch the clips. Why? Like, why were
Right.
they wrestling? Right? Like, why is Jay mad at Andrade? Wasn't Andrade just wrestling somebody for his mask?
Right. Wasn't he was just involved with the House of Black.
Yeah,
And
and
then
then they
all
had
of a sudden,
he
he
stole his
got his mask.
mask. Yeah, he stole his mask. He got his mask back. What's the beef with? Again, like I listened to a lot
Well,
of like.
Bret Hart wasn't mad at Jean Pierre Lafitte anymore after he got his jacket back.
He's like, thanks, I got it. Yeah.
I'm gonna go hang this up.
Yeah, yeah. I could sit on my side of the locker room
Yeah.
instead of yours.
Yeah. Oh crap.
I mean, again, yeah, it just
Lock this shit in the car.
yeah, it just doesn't. There's no appeal to it. No one cares. Yes, it's a good match. I mean, okay, and no one's invested. I don't know who won. I don't know who lost. I did see that Juice acted like a dog and lifted his leg on Andrade to piss on him.
That's all that matters, brother.
That's all I remember from all the clips that I saw of it. And I thought, that was funny. And then that was it. And that's where we are with AEW.
Well, let's talk about where we are with the WWE.
Oh boy.
Let's talk about how much money the WWE made this week. Okay?
This week?
Well, the news coming out of Stamford, Connecticut, from CNBC, they're making real news outlets, okay?
Oh boy.
CNBC has reported that the WWE has announced a 5-year deal with NBC Universal that will see Friday Night SmackDown begin to air on the USA Network in October of 2024. This deal, Ricky, is worth $1.4 billion, right? Which is
Mhm.
about an average of $287 million a year. The WWE will also produce 4 primetime specials per year that will air on NBC in the beginning of the 2024-2025 season. Okay? $1.4 billion. Now, what I'm wondering is, we get all the rainbows and lollipops here, right?
Mhm.
What was the Fox offer is what I want to know. It couldn't have been.
It was way less because they were getting, I think it was 207 million a year
Okay.
from Fox
Right,
when
because
they
this was just a $1 billion deal.
right when they first went over. That was what they were getting. So again, I mean, these were all rumors, but for this calendar year, it's been constantly put out there that Fox was not happy with the money they put out and then what they were getting in
Getting
return.
back.
So the deal was going to be obviously less than. So yeah,
Oh, I wonder what it was, because they haven't even,
yeah, they
you
won't
know,
release that.
right. They're not going to let us know. Oh, Fox offered us 750, because then that makes NBC
Right.
look like a bunch of asshats. But so I'm also reading reports that Raw may be leaving the USA Network
Yeah.
for the first time since they were on Spike TV.
I was going to say, wasn't TNN or something like that?
It was TNN, and then TNN, I believe, turned into Spike.
Spike. Yeah.
And then WWE was on Spike. They went back to USA. Spike picked up TNA,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then Eric Bischoff was like, I'll fix this. And I haven't seen what channel TNA has been on since then.
Right.
But TNA is actually in our programming here tonight for the first time ever. It took 25 weeks, but Impact made it.
um, yeah, I feel like, I mean, even with this deal, like nothing was mentioned until it was done. So I am curious where they're going to go because isn't NXT along with that, right?
Well, the what I'm reading here makes no mention of if NXT uh or the other, what's the other, no, it's just NXT.
Yeah, NXT.
If NXT stays or goes, if it's some sort of a package deal. But what
Hmm.
I'm wondering is WWE for the last few years now has had exposure on network television, right?
Yeah.
And they just signed this mega deal for SmackDown with NBC Universal. But I can't help but feel like they hate the fact that they're going to lose the exposure from network television. I have a feeling that they're going to announce a deal that puts Monday Night Raw on NBC. on Monday nights.
You think so?
I do. I have no merit to base this on.
Yeah.
You know,
Um,
I don't know what
that's
NBC shows on Monday night in prime time, but it can't be good.
that's true too. I mean, now that you say that, I guess that makes a lot of sense. But what about the football issue?
Well, the Monday Night Football
Yeah.
is on ESPN and ABC.
Oh, ABC. Okay.
ABC.
I mean,
So
yeah, I guess that would make sense. It's an all year round flow of eyeballs that would come to that channel. So, uh, I just feel, yeah, I feel like typical WWE or Vince McMahon, whatever you want to call it, but like I'm never surprised, even though I'm surprised every time
right,
that they pull something out of their ass that you're like scratching your head, like, are you what? Like
right. And then
with
a minute
this,
later, you get McMahon's. You're like, oh, that makes
yeah,
total sense.
yeah. It
Yeah,
just when I heard, when I read that Fox, they weren't going to be back on Fox, I thought to myself, there's no way they get more money to go somewhere else, and they did.
right,
Then when I heard Vince was trying to sell WWE for like 7 billion, he got 9.3.
right.
Nothing is better to me than when I get Vince McMahon,
Yeah,
because in my head I just hear his laugh and him saying "pal" after everything that I read, and
yeah.
I'm like, that son of a bitch.
It's
It's
it's not.
amazing. So what you're saying, yeah, kind of makes sense in a lot of ways. Uh, yeah, the whole football thing I always read is always like the biggest concern, right?
Right,
Because that's the biggest competition. And unfortunately, it starts in the fall when uh, that's when they expect ratings to be at their highest and then advertisements to be at their most.
right,
But again, if it's advertised right on that type of network and they build it to go against the NFL, now you're going to split people and they're going to want to
right. And
build.
the this year it's even worse because what was supposed to happen was ESPN and ABC were supposed to be splitting the Monday night games, right?
Oh,
But because of the WGA and the SAG-AFTRA strikes,
right.
there's like no new television this year, so they're just going to be showing the games on both channels
Oh,
all
okay.
season long. So every Monday night game is going to air on ABC and on ESPN,
Mm,
which spells trouble for WWE. I almost broke into the Scott Steiner math promo,
yeah.
Senor Joe, but it. But did you see MJF redid that promo the other night?
No, he did.
Yeah, it was goddamn incredible. He was. I was like, wait a minute, what is he doing here? And then he's like, if you take my 22% half, and I was like, oh shit, here we go. And he nailed it. It was really good. Did you? By the way, did you go back to watch the Keith Lee promo countdown thing?
I did. I found it right
Yeah,
after. Right after. Yeah.
good. Oh, what good shit, pal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
um. Yeah. It should be interesting. Again, I'm looking forward to getting McMahon. When I read where Raw's going, I did read a couple different places said that NXT was supposed to be included on that deal for Tuesday night. So I also read they may move Raw from Monday. I don't know how true that was or the talks of that possibly happening. Yeah. So I don't know.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about some people who probably aren't happy they got McMahon this week.
Oh boy.
Okay, we've got a full list of WWE superstars released from their contract this week after TKO officially took over. And we were talking last week and we were both like, nah, we don't expect any talent cuts. This is going to be an elimination of redundancies. It's going to be all office shit. And then, well, what do you know? Now, I'm going to go through the list real quick. Stop me when you recognize a name. Okay? There's Abul Abadi Fitzgerald, Brooklyn Barlow, Alexis Gray, Daniel MacArthur, Kevin Ventura Cortez, Bryson Montana, Quincy Elliott, Ulisa Leon, Ikeman Jiro, Shanky, Dabakato, Dana Brooke,
I know her.
Mansoor,
I know him.
Mace, Rick Boogs,
Oh yeah, that guy.
Top Dollar.
He fell.
He fell so hard, bro. Aaliyah. The best part about him falling was he felt that he had to justify it, and he tweeted a video of him in the Indies doing it just a little less bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aaliyah, Riddick Moss, which surprised me.
Yeah, right.
Emma. Emma.
Yeah.
Mustafa Ali.
Mm.
Elias. Shelton Benjamin. Dolph Ziggler, and Matt Riddle. Where would you like to start here?
I would like to start with Mustafa Ali.
Yes, I'm really happy you said that. Go ahead.
Because I feel like he needs to go away.
Really?
Yeah. Because off that list, him and Moss were the two that I thought could go away for like 3 years and become big stars.
When they got back.
Yeah. And then come back and move the needle a little bit in the direction that they originally wanted to. Just because Mustafa Ali, we'll start with him, like, has the most potential, obviously. Physically, he's, a good-looking guy. There's a lot you can do with him because he didn't get to do the stuff that we know as wrestlers that he's capable of, right? Because we get to see a little glimpse of like, holy shit, like
almost,
that was sick.
Also of like where it seemed like they were building him to go.
Yeah. I did. So I read that Kofi Kingston winning the belt was supposed to be Mustafa Ali. Did you hear that?
Yes.
So right there is enough fuel for his fire to say, I'll show you motherfuckers, and go to AEW. If he wanted to do more, maybe, I don't know, take the AJ Styles route and
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, if he did New Japan, I believe he could have a better shot at making himself out to be a bigger star, in my opinion, because what he wants to do, New Japan wants him to do. Which is basically no handcuffs here. Go, there's your floor, hit it and let him do him. They'll treat him better. I think the fans will respect him more if he went to New Japan and CMLL as opposed to just popping into AEW. I think Riddick Moss going to AEW, I would hope would be good for him. Unfortunately, their booking and the way they don't know how to use guys.
Yeah.
He could end up being Miro and then
Wardlow 2.0.
Or Ward, yeah, like a guy that just pops up. Hey, you got your pop. See you in 9 months, and then we forget all about him.
Let me make a point about Mustafa Ali, though. I would definitely definitely agree with going the New Japan route.
Yeah.
However, Mustafa Ali represents a group of people that are neglected by the wrestling world, right?
Right.
He can be a hero for a city that doesn't currently have a hero,
Right.
right? He
Right.
can be AEW's new king of Chicago.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
He can be the draw in the city that they neglect so badly. I mean, they never go to Chicago.
They
And
never do.
they never go to Chicago, and they can't draw a house in Chicago. I mean, bringing a guy like Mustafa Ali in can be just, an incredible boost to their business there in this second city that's been so neglected by AEW over the last 2 years.
Do they even get wrestling in Chicago?
I don't know. I don't know, but he can be the new voice of the voiceless. All jokes aside, I think that Mustafa Ali's got of this list. He's got the most upside.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying about he can take that risk of going outside America, and with the way the world is now, everyone in America will see that, right? So he'll become more of an attraction when he does pop in. Um, I liked when Cody left and when FTR first left and they
Mhm.
popped into different places
Yeah, they did their indie shots.
because to me, these releases, and I'm speaking for like the guys with names like Elias and all those guys, helps pro wrestling, right? Not WWE, but pro wrestling in general, because they're gonna pop every house that they pop into, um, and it's gonna be good for business, and everyone's gonna benefit from it.
Yeah.
So the people that love this is where, do you love pro wrestling or did you like being a WWE superstar? This
Right.
is, this is going to be that test, right? But I know for a fact that Mustafa Ali, uh, for a while now, I'm sure has been felt, underutilized, and
Yep.
and maybe it was a size thing with Vince. I don't know. You can't say it wasn't his ability, but at the very top of that list was Dolph Ziggler. Um, and there's a guy that is captain underutilized.
I want to, before we get too much into Dolph, right? I
Mm,
want to talk a little bit about Shelton Benjamin,
mm,
right? Because I think Shelton Benjamin, if I were Tony Khan, there would have already been a meeting, an in-person meeting, because Shelton Benjamin is the exact kind of person that he needs to bring in there, right? That can teach every single person on his roster the proper way to be a professional wrestler inside and outside of the ring, right?
yeah,
He'd be doing on the job training. Like Shelton Benjamin is the kind of guy there that is a potential treasure trove of knowledge,
right.
and I'd be chomping at the bit to put on my shows and to put in my, even if he didn't work, to put in my locker room
Yeah.
to see if you can screw some of these fucking guys' heads on straight. Continue.
Yes. Yes. Of course.
Right.
But it's
Are they
AEW.
right?
It's AEW.
Yeah.
If you're not going to listen to guys like right now, like Miro and Christian, and when Punk was there, and even FTR, who's still there, and they're fighting it, and half these guys are still going out doing what they're doing just because. Yes, that's a perfect, in a perfect world, that would be, hey, here's your fix.
Yeah.
Boom, Shelton Benjamin,
Yeah,
bitch.
but
Like,
Shelton will
nope.
stretch him.
Yeah, well, that too, but yeah, I mean, absolutely. I believe that if Shelton goes there, which he may, like, how do you not immediately put the rocket to him
Right.
and you know and hope that people will follow suit? But I don't know, man. Like, that's very wishful thinking. But the reality of it is, you know, it is what it is over there, and it's, I don't know. It's frustrating to me because there's probably a quarter of that locker room in AEW that deserve all that money and deserve that recognition of being like the best wrestlers, and they're just not getting it because they don't know what they're doing over there.
Right.
I mean, really, seriously, like, what are you going to do with Shelton Benjamin? What is it? Let me rephrase that. What would AEW do with Shelton Benjamin right now? What do you think? He shows up tomorrow. What is, not what are you going to do? Because you have common sense and knowledge of how to build something. I'm asking you, what do you think those dumbasses would do with Shelton Benjamin right now, leading into the next 90 days of his existence there?
They'd put him in there with Orange Cassidy to put him over.
Okay, right. And there we are. That's it.
Yep.
And then he goes home happily and buys another yacht.
Right.
So and then in 6 months he's like, I'm good. I'm cool. Never to be heard from again.
It's
What
so
what
frustrating there.
what Shelton did when he first left WWE, I don't know if you remember, like, he went to ROH. Remember when Cornette was in
Yep.
charge? So that's when I met him, at ROH. But then he started going to New Japan, and then New Japan sent a group to Pro Wrestling Noah to, like, invade for like a few years, right? And that's where he did probably his best work, was a part of New Japan, but in the Noah ring. And that's how I feel like Mustafa Ali could do something like that. And then WWE was like, yo, we need Shelton back. Like, or like how AJ did, we were lucky enough to have AJ, in our locker room at one point in the middle of IWGP wins, right? So here we are, like, the legitimate best wrestler on planet Earth is like at Deer Park with us,
Playing ping pong.
Yeah, dicking off in the back, trying to figure out what Grop was, and then
and then a week later he was the IWGP.
Yeah, and then he goes and beats Tanahashi for the belt, and you're welcome, AJ. So, but that's what I mean by helping wrestling, is like, if a Mustafa Ali, if he pops up in New Japan, and even, let's say he goes nose to nose with Ospreay, right, in New Japan, everyone wins, right? Yep. Because let's face it, it appears Ospreay has got one foot out the door in New Japan, right? So for him, that top spot is opening up for Ali. And if he does what AJ did in 2 years in New Japan, or something even remotely close to it, WWE will gladly be like, yo, come back here, and hopefully right their wrong. But
now
Ziggler's Ziggler's different, because Ziggler's had his moments. Unfortunately, those moments didn't last long enough. He could do the exact same thing, and I mean, he could do the exact same recipe of success for him and go to Japan and, just do international stuff. What do you do? How do you book Ziggler in AEW is my question.
Here's your answer. You don't.
Right. Fair enough.
If I'm Dolph Ziggler,
there's way better matches for him.
I see if I can go down to Impact Wrestling and make some type of splash there
You're right.
and see if I can maybe use the star that I've built, the
Right.
talent that I have, the experience that I have to put Impact Wrestling on my back and see if I can turn it into something 3% greater than what it is now. Because if you can do that, right? If you're Dolph Ziggler and you go down there and you start to get this thing over, and then maybe Elias shows up there, okay? And then maybe another guy shows up there, and another guy shows up there. And what you're doing is you're building a brand that is unfindable, unreachable, unconnectable, and you're connecting with it and making people care about it, and then showing the world what you've known for the last 20 years is that you are a star. And if it doesn't work, you collect a paycheck from Impact just like everybody else has over the last 20 years, and you go and you take your Hall of Fame ring, and they give you your $5,000 and you get your photo op and they make your action figures, or you go into Jacksonville because you know he's going to take you no matter what. But I try, if I'm an established guy who was just released in this, like a Dolph Ziggler, who's been shortchanged
Oh yeah.
over the last 10, 12 years, if not longer, and I go see what I can do to make something else. You know what I mean? I go and try to challenge my star power and to see what it's really worth. And I go to Impact.
Absolutely. I mean, in a perfect world, that would be amazing. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for 100%. The thing about Impact is, although it's hard to find and hard to care about, they
The
have.
best wrestling is happening
I,
in Impact right now.
I was gonna say they have nothing but studs in their locker rooms right now, and it really is a shame that nobody's talking more about it. Um, but yeah, you're right. That would fix all their problems almost in one. That would be Hogan to WCW in '93. Like that would change everything for them, I think, because although he's older, Ziggler, he's not broken down as bad as
Right, because he hasn't been used for 10
because they
years.
don't do anything with him. And what he does good and everything else is sell.
Right,
So his body's not broken down from like, 630s outside the ring through
right.
tables. Like he can just bump and sell, you know, and the other guy gets over, right? And then, so
Seriously, I think I might. He's been around for about 20 years, and I think I've
yeah,
seen him do 4 offensive moves, right?
yeah, exactly.
He's got a drop kick, he's
Yep.
got a neck breaker, he's got a famouser,
Mister and the zigzag.
and the zigzag, and a super kick. Okay, so I've
Yeah,
seen the guy do 5 things over 20 years.
yeah.
The rest of it is bump and feed.
Selling, moving.
I can
Yep.
tell you 30 different Ziggler bumps,
Yep.
right? 5
He,
moves, 30
he
bumps.
him being in the ring, he just gets over just moving,
Yep.
and it's like magic. Yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah, I mean that makes the most sense for pro wrestling as a whole, because now if that were to happen and they do something that's pretty interesting with him right off the bat, like maybe Ziggler versus Chris Sabin.
Yeah.
I mean, now you're talking about that match alone is going to sell out the building. Doesn't need to have a title with it, but now Impact looks like the legitimate third tier
Right.
brand out there, that maybe now other wrestlers are like you said, hey, maybe I'll go down there,
I want to work Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah, that's what
Tell
I
them
mean.
that.
Like how many guys are going to look at it like, if I could get there, I can be in the ring with them. Yeah, I mean he's clearly a needle mover anywhere he goes in the world now. Um, I think that would be his best bet. And then like if I were Mustafa Ali, I would be looking at Osprey's exit as my entry to
Yes.
New Japan, because you don't want to just go to New Japan and then just be one of the Bullet Club guys. They do that with the young guys because the way their system is the young guys, they need to be looked at as threats for like 5 years before they start to break them off and
Yeah.
think like, okay, you can do something now because you've earned it. You know, this way it's basically a lateral move for Osprey to go from there to AEW so he could play with his friends, and then Ali can say, "Hey, I could be a top guy here for 3 years," you know, and at some point WWE is going to say, "Yeah, we need that back," you
Yeah.
know.
The
They didn't
Bullet
do anything
Club.
with him and didn't utilize or value him when he was there already, but once they see this, then they will, and then his whole outlook on and WWE's outlook on him will be completely different.
Yeah. The Bullet Club is like New Japan's on-screen NXT.
Yeah,
It's like
right,
their NXT on the show. And
right.
then Ali, anytime he was actually given
Yeah,
an opportunity
yeah,
on WWE TV,
yeah,
he fucking crushed it
yeah,
100% of the time. There's so much, so much, so much upside for him,
yeah.
especially in New Japan. Now, the one person who I'm not sure what to do with, there's a lot of questions around Matt Riddle. Uh, I am not a fan of Matt Riddle's body of work to begin with. Okay, you're Matt Riddle, or you're one of these. You're Tony Khan or Scott Demore or Gato, even. Okay, what are your thoughts for Riddle?
Okay, so I don't like Riddle at all. I don't get it.
Okay, me
Maybe
neither.
I didn't get RVD and WWE, so I'm not going to get a watered down second rate version of what bad RVD was. You know, that's how. So here's what I admire. I admire his work ethic. When he's in the ring, he works hard. So I like that. Um, but because I
The
don't get
end.
it, huh?
The end.
Yeah. But because I don't get it, I have zero knowledge of where to put it, right? Um, Although he's a former UFC wrestler, he does play wrestling stuff to me. So it that doesn't even help, right? So I wouldn't even know what to do. I think he's going to go to AEW. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
Once he was released, first thing I thought was like Tony Khan's like, "Hey, big fan," you know.
Yeah, but what is he? What do you like? Where does he even fit there?
He doesn't.
He's such an obscure,
Yeah.
different entity that it's like, what do you even do? First of all, does he fit in there? Because AEW is the land of it's all friends, it's all inclusive,
Yeah.
right? He's got some bullshit in his past or whatever that
Yeah.
the AEW and they don't take too kindly of. I'm pretty sure they're all like weird straight edge Christian rock fucking nerds. So
Yeah.
it's like, does he fit in? Like the guy with the bong in his luggage. I don't know if he fits with the Young Bucks. Um, and then what you get him there? What do you do with him?
That's the problem is so I could see their fans freaking out with like, you know, Riddle and Orange Cassidy face to face. And then when that happens, then what?
Then what? Yeah,
Because
because now you've seen it.
Riddle's Riddle should annihilate him and just be done with it, but that won't happen.
You can make an argument for Riddle maybe doing something with New Japan Strong.
Yeah, I mean, yes, he would fit in to that a little bit better. Yes. Because of his background. That's where
Right,
that
and
stuff
because it's,
would work.
it's not really a promo heavy brand.
Correct.
We don't really have to hear him speak
I was
or
just I was just gonna say the less he talks, the better he is.
right.
And that was my issue with him in WWE was the way they presented him with like the when he jump in and flip off his sandals and the
Right,
way
when
he
the pigeons
acted and
flew out of his
the
ass.
colors. Yeah,
Randy. Like,
yeah, and then the him and Randy thing that worked for that particular, I guess, fan based kids,
yeah,
right?
it worked for everybody until you realized that Randy wasn't gonna put his foot up his ass.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then it was like we're really just
What are we
doing this for
doing?
real. Yeah.
Right.
And then yeah, so uh yeah, he would work out there. I just feel like he's a guy that's gonna say, I like that money. This dumbass will give me that money. I'll work less, so I'll smoke more. So this makes sense. That's what I think. I don't get Riddle, never did. Again, I appreciated his work ethic because he did work hard, but he just never did anything for me where I was like, man, I can't wait to see that Matt Riddle match. So
Yeah.
I said that 0 times.
Right.
So he don't fit there. Mustafa Ali fits, and I would hope he would go to New Japan and CMLL where he would shine like the star he wants to be. And honestly, like, yeah, in a perfect world, Ziggler would do what you're saying, but I don't know. Maybe, I mean, he's older too. He might just be like, no, I'm good. I'm just going to write out this Hall of Fame thing. And
Yeah. Or go to
uh,
AEW and team with my brother.
he might just take the easy route and just show up. I don't know.
Do you think Top Dollar goes to AEW to reunite with Swerve Strickland?
Yeah, I don't think of Top Dollar at all. So I
Yeah,
have no
I'm
idea.
sure like Swerve Strickland's phone's ringing right now, and he's
Oh
just saying,
yeah,
"New
yeah.
number, who this?"
I, when everybody was getting released, if I were an AEW, I would have flipped my phone upside down and just
Yeah.
went to bed.
Uh, Elias, you have any thoughts on the future of Elias?
Man, I feel like WWE really dropped the ball with him. I felt like he got hot on his own
Mm-hmm.
and they just never went with it. So I could never understand what that is.
Mm,
He's huge. I wrestled him before, right before he went to WWE in IWC, I think it was in Pittsburgh,
okay.
where he's from. Super nice guy. Just wanted to get better. Obviously he did. I don't know what he did wrong to where they thought they needed to get rid of him, to be honest with you, because he wasn't worn out on TV. They didn't overdo him. He got over where he did the whole like how Kevin Owens does, where he talks like he's gonna be a face and then turns the
Yeah,
crowd like oh man, he
he
did
got
that shit.
over wild. Like he was so underutilized,
Yes, the
but
most I think.
but managed to get mega over while
Yes,
being underutilized. Like
yes,
they legitimately never brought him out for like an actual factual match.
right.
It was always just a segment, and he got
Yes,
over heavy. The guy had a great look. From what I saw from him, he could work.
he can work. Yeah,
Phenomenal shape. I
yeah.
think the downfall there was he told somebody that he liked to play the guitar, and he looked like a before and after with Seth Rollins if Seth Rollins would have done a cycle.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And
yeah.
um I'm surprised because I thought he was gonna be. I didn't know if the Elias character per se
Mm,
was going to be a star, but the man portraying it in some incarnation was going to be a star.
yeah. I
And then
mean,
they did Ezekiel, and it
yeah,
was
that
like,
was the stupidest thing that I didn't understand any of that.
right.
Um, yeah, I honestly don't know. Maybe, maybe they bring him back within a year.
Yeah.
If he lays low, I think it's one of those Triple H like, hey bud, got you on speed dial, don't go nowhere just yet, you know. That's what
So
I'm
was he
hoping.
just not laying low enough? Like, how much lower could he have laid that they even found him to release him?
Well, the whole thing with this, I believe, is like the company just took over. You know, they're going to trim some fat for now, and then like they did a while back, you know, once they kind of like moved Nick Khan from that whole hey, stay off your phone type thing, and then
Yeah.
Triple H just rehired everybody that he wanted to. I think they'll bring him back. I hope they do. I don't think I can't see him being anywhere else but there because I feel like if WWE didn't do it right, nobody, no one's gonna do this guy right.
My last question of all of these releases, right? Where's Johnny Gargano hiding, and how much shit is in his pants?
Bro.
He's got to
He
have
has
pictures or
he
something.
had I was just gonna say he has pictures and he knows exactly where the bodies are buried
You got it.
because
Got
he
it.
I don't get I don't get him like I don't get Riddle. You know, they're in the same boat with me. Like
Mhm.
if they both fell off the face of the earth, I would just, you know, yep. So I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
It's just it's crazy. I did come across on Twitter the other day the Dana White video of him shitting on Riddle.
Yeah.
So I think it's hysterical that as soon as like this merger went through, like one of the first people to go down was Riddle, and he was like, "How stupid could you be?" You know?
No.
Oh Christ! You got anything else you want to talk about? We've hit the releases. We've hit Moxley. We talked about Impact, the TV deals, Grand Slam, WrestleDream, Rick Knox, Ray Phoenix. We've covered some fucking bases here tonight
Yeah.
in a
Busy
very
week.
very long episode.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of meat on the bone here tonight, and I'm very happy with what we did here.
Yeah. It was a good one.
The enthusiasm just fucking jumping out of your pores. It's unreal.
Well, I'm more excited to see where these guys go.
Yeah.
You know
We're
what
gonna have
I'm
to wait
saying?
90
Like
days, brother.
with the way this happened, I'm telling you, there's a few of those guys that are gonna make some noise, and I really want to know where they end up. You know, so
Now, it's only I believe it's only 60 days for the people the NXT releases, right?
yeah, but I don't even know who any of those people are.
Well, here's the deal. Dana Brooke was working in NXT, but was she working NXT with a WWE contract?
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works exactly. I remember Finn when Finn Balor went back to NXT.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he had like a regular Raw contract still.
And no bad tattoos. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
And just was doing NXT, I think. So I don't know how that works. I mean, Dana Brooke, she didn't do anything, you know, special either, but I mean, yeah,
Because
I don't know.
Ziggler was most recently an NXT champion. Was he?
That's true. Yeah.
Is his going to be 60 days? It sucks. We're going to have to wait 3 months to figure all of this out.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, man, it's gonna take a while, but
Yeah, by this time, Punk will be at Survivor Series.
oh yeah, right. We'll see.
We'll see. You know, just indulge me here for a minute. Of the big four, do you feel like Survivor Series is the forgotten pay per view?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because they don't do the teams anymore. And they don't do it well. I feel like they ended up using that build of teams, that team concept for the war games and NXT,
Right.
and they totally forgot about it on the main shows. because I could see and feel like when War Games was coming up, especially when the Undisputed Era was there and stuff,
Yeah.
I felt like they were using that formula, but for them. And we just have Survivor Series because that's what comes on November.
They should just have Survivor Series be the War Games.
That's what I'm saying. Like I feel like they moved it and didn't move it back or just forgot all about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's now wait, on Survivor Series, they've been doing the champion versus champions though, right?
Yeah, because of the crossing of the brands,
See
which
that
is a
that
dead
doesn't do
thing
any
now. Also,
that doesn't do anything though for the Survivor Series concept.
right.
Yeah, so it's just another pay-per-view.
What a shame. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Well, speaking of fallen, I'm about ready to start falling asleep. I've got some football to watch here. So, Ricky, I'm going to go ahead and call this thing time of death 1 hour and 21 minutes and 11 seconds. I'm going to run the gimmick as soon as I figure out where it is. Here it comes. Mother Fluxers, you have a good night. Ricky, I'll catch you next week, brother.
Yep.